Today we're going to be taking factoring just one step further. In most all of the trinomials that you've had before, you've had a single leading coefficient of 1. Now we're going to look at what happens when you have a number that's not 1. Now we did only one example of the day, but we're going to have some extra practice on this today. Okay, on top of that, we're going to go on to the next lesson as well as solving a quadratic. Okay, so we know that this is a trinomial. Now I want you to know that not all trinomials are factorable. Okay, there are some that you will not find anything that you can factor out of it. Okay, and we're not going to look at those right now, but that is possible. And then you say that it's prime. It's a prime quadratic. There's nothing that I can factor out of it. As I look through this, a habit that I didn't emphasize earlier is there any number that I can just get factored out of it, all those terms? Like, can you divide them all by 2 or by an x or anything? Is there anything there? No. Okay, but that is something you want to ask yourself. Okay, then the next step is I want to try to find 2 binomials that will work with this one. Now remember, you're looking for the n terms as being something that multiplies together, those 2 terms, to get 24. What causes a little bit of problem is that I know the first 2 terms must multiply together to get 5x squared. Now, the 5x squared is not too bad, because what are my options of getting 2 x terms which multiply together to get 5x squared? There's probably only one option. What is it? Right, a 5x and an x. So those are kind of set. Now we're looking at 2 terms that multiply together to get to be 24. What do you want to try? Okay, let's try 12 and 2. Now because this is a positive here, we are going to be putting those in as positive numbers. All right, now we're going to try FOIL, and we're just going to just work it out and try it. I get 5x squared plus 10x plus 12x plus 24. Now what's 10x and 12x going to give me? 22x. Does that work? No. Okay, so that one doesn't work. And you can just cross it out on your paper when you find out that it does not work. Okay, so we need to try something else. Now, I could switch them around. 2 and 12 may not be the wrong numbers. I may need to just switch them around because I do have 2 different terms here, or 2 numerical coefficients that are different for these 2 terms. All right, let's try it now. I get 5x squared plus, well, what's 5 times 12? 60x plus 2x plus 24. Is that going to work? No. Okay, that's way too big. All right, so let's try something other than 2 and 12. 6 and 4. All right, let's try 4 and 6 this way. I get 5x squared plus 30x plus 4x gives you 34. All right, so does that work? It sure does. It works. So then that is what it is factored. That's your solution if I'm factoring it. You'll get into the habit where once you have your first term set, you can just kind of play with the 2 middle terms of your FOIL in order to figure out if it's going to add up to be the second term. Okay, let's try this next one. What do you think the first 2 terms are going to be of my binomials? 2x and an x. Very good. Now my last 2 have to multiply together to get 6. What do you want to, or excuse me, 24. What do you want to try? Do you want to try 6 and 4 again? Okay, let's try it. 2x plus 4. Oops. Let me put it over here. Okay, so I got 2x squared plus 12x plus 4x plus 24. Is that going to work? Okay, let me try switching them. Okay, so I get 2x squared plus 8x plus 6x. Is that going to work? No, still not going to work. All right, so let's try something else. 12 and 2. Okay, so I have 2x squared plus 4x plus 12x plus 24. Is that going to work? Okay, you want to try switching them? Do you think it'll work if I switch them? Somebody's saying no. Okay, so what do you want to try? 8 and 3. Now, will it matter where I put the 8? It might. So I'm thinking I want a bigger number, so I might want the 8 to be multiplied by the 2. Does that make sense? So let's try that. So I have 2x squared plus 16x plus 3x plus 24. Does that work? Yes. And you'll get used to this with practice. That's what you'll do. You'll play around with them and see what works. All right, now we get to this next one. Coming to another little different problem. What options can I have here? I could have 2x times 2x, or I could have 4x times x. Oh, but what do you notice, Crystal? I can divide them all by 2. Ooh, let's do that. If I divide them all by 2, I'm factoring out a 2. What do I have left? 2x squared plus 11x plus 5. Okay, now that, we're going to put that 2 out here then. And that makes it a little easier. That makes it easier for you to find then what those combinations will be to factor the rest of it. Okay, so now I know that one has to be a 2x and the other one has to be an x. Okay, so what are we going to try? They multiply together to get 5 and add up to be 11 once I get the whole thing together. 5 and 1, which one do I need to put it with? Do you have any idea? Plus 1 plus 5? Let's try it. So I get 2x squared plus 10x plus 1x plus 5. Is that going to get it? It sure will. Okay, so I have just now factored this, but you notice we have 3 factors that we're working with now. Any questions on that one? Okay, now it's your turn. Try these 3. When you get the first one done, I want you to check with your partner. Think if you agree, then let me come and check it. All right, as we look at the first one, we see that we can factor out a 2. So when I factor out a 2, what's left? 2x squared plus 19x plus 35. Okay, so now I'm just working with trying to get a binomial, 2 binomials that I'm multiplying together from this trinomial. Okay, so I know my first term is probably a 2x and an x. Now I'm looking for 2 terms that multiply together to get 35. And what do you think they'll be? A 5 and 7? Let's try it. Okay, I get 2x squared plus 14x plus 5x plus 35. Is that going to work? You get 19x? You do. So your final answer here is 2 times the quantity 2x plus 5 times the quantity x plus 7. Great. That's your final factoring state. All right, let's try number 2. Now here you're dealing with some negatives. Was there anything I could factor out to start with? No. Okay, so I'm looking at probably 2x and x. Now because the last 2 terms have to multiply together to get a negative number, what do I know about them? One's going to be negative. Okay, what do I multiply to get a 9? 3 and 3? Which one do you think I'm going to have with the negative? You don't think either one of them work? Okay, so let's just try a negative 3 and a positive 3. Okay, so if I do this, is that going to work? Okay, somebody's shaking their head because no, I'm going to get 6 minus 3 would just be 3 x's. All right, what should I try next? Okay, you put a plus here, a plus 3 and a minus 3. Okay, so I have 2x squared minus 6x plus 3x minus 9. What's negative 6x plus 3x? Negative 3x, so this one does work. And that's in its factored state. All right, and then the last one. Now this one, is there anything we can factor out? No. Okay, so what are we going to try? Do you want to try the 4x and x, or do you want to try the 2x and 2x? 4x and x? And we're just trying it. It may not work, and then you'll have to switch to 2x and 2x. Multiply together to get 10. What do you want to try? Ooh, but these are negatives, so they both are minus 5 and minus 2. Let's give it a try. We've got 4x squared minus 8x minus 5x plus 10. All right, we see that you get then a negative 13x, so it worked, and we have factored that trinomial. Next.